Good evening guys and welcome back to the FM Scout YouTube channel with me Teach FM. This is another instalment of our Into the Future series where we take one of FM17's current wonder kids and see how they progress in their career. Before we continue though guys, I would just like to point you in the direction of my channel, in which I have a current save going on with Manchester United. We are in the second season now, so if you could maybe stop by, take a view of a couple of the videos, maybe drop a cheeky little sub, that'd be awesome. So as you can see guys, the wonder kid for this episode is Kingsley Coman. Already somewhat of a household name, of course, Kingsley Coman is currently plying his trade at Bayern Munich. Although he is of course on loan from Juventus. It was a 2-year deal from memory. It was around about £6 or £7 million that Bayern Munich paid, and they did have an option to buy him after a couple of years. As we can see, his strongest position is as a winger out on the left, and that is no surprise considering his physical attributes with his acceleration, pace and natural fitness all breaking into the excellent attribute mark. 17 on acceleration, 19 on pace, and his natural fitness being 16, which is great for a winger. And as we can see in his mentals guys, pretty decent across the board. Now we do have to bear in mind that he is only 20 years old and does have a lot of time to develop. However, if we have a look here, his aggression being at 15 already, determination at 12, which normally I would look for a little bit more in a player. Just for me it shows how good they're going to do in general going forward and how determined they are to better themselves. However, with flair at 15 and work rate at 15, he already looks like he's going to be a good player going forward. And his technicals as a winger, of course, you are looking for the likes of crossing, dribbling, first touch, and only his crossing being at 14, which has loads of room to improve. We have first touch at 15, dribbling at 15, and his technique also sat at 14. I think Kingsley Coman is the type of winger that anybody would love to put in their team. Just one more thing before we carry on guys, I would just like to put a little disclaimer in that with Football Manager, as everybody knows, everything is somewhat randomised, and although Coleman may be fantastic in this one or maybe not so great, in the very next one he could be amazing or of course he could be poor. It's just one of those things. One thing I do always find though, when a wonder kid is left to be managed by a computerised manager, they always do pretty good. I personally feel that if you take a wonder kid yourself and develop them the way you want to develop them, put a lot of time into them, you will pretty much always turn a wonder kid into a world beater. So we will take a look at his history guys, and as we can see, he was first plying his trade at Paris Saint-Germain. And then in the season of 14-15 made the move to Juventus on a free, of course only being a young lad. And then Juventus loaned him out to Bayern Munich. So in his first season at Bayern Munich, he played 23 times, scoring 4 goals, which is not too shabby for at the time he will have been 18, 19 years old. And you could only expect bigger and better things to come. So we will take a quick look at his landmark achievements, guys, and we'll just focus on the bigger ones in the last couple of years, being him getting his international debut against Germany in 2015. He then went on to win the Bundesliga last year with Bayern Munich. He then got his first international goal versus Russia in 2016 before winning the DFB Pokal in 2016, once again with Bayern Munich. Being at Bayern Munich, you would imagine that Kingsley Coman is going to end up with a very decorated career. And in the way the namesake of the series, guys, we will go into the future now by 5 years to see what improvements Coleman's made, whether he's still stayed at Bayern Munich, and just in general how he's getting on. So there we go guys, 5 years forward, and the first thing that is massively evident is Coleman is now maybe somewhat surprisingly playing for West Ham. Now as we can see, he's now 25 years old. He has picked up 56 caps for France and scored 15 goals, which is an improvement, which is great. But what we'll do is we'll take a look at his physicals. Now, his physicals have somewhat stagnated from when we last seen him 5 years ago. His acceleration remaining at 17, his pace remaining at 19, and his natural fitness remaining at 16, which is no bad thing. I mean, they were already quite high for a winger. One thing that is great is his stamina's gone up by 2, he's now sat at 15. His balance has gone up by 1, sat at 14, and his strength has also increased by 1, which is now sat at 11. And we'll look at his mentals, guys, and once again, it is just a small set of improvements across the board. So we'll go through them. We have his anticipation has gone up by 1 to 12. His composure's gone up by 1 to 12 also, along with his concentration, which has also gone up by 1. However, his decisions have improved by 2, which is good. His leadership has improved by 1 also, which comes with age. Off the ball has also improved by 1, which is great for any player, regardless of where they play on the park. But other than that, guys, his mentals have pretty much stayed the same. Where Coleman has seen some fantastic improvements, so is in his technical abilities. Now at the age of 25, of course. His corners have gone up by 2 to 14. He's gained 2 on his crossing up to 16, which has now made it into the excellent bracket. As we can see, it's now highlighted in green. His dribbling has also improved by 1, putting it to 16. And his first touch has also improved by 1, putting it to 16. His passing and technique have also gained by 1, but other than that, guys, it has only been small little increments that he's improved in his technical department. But where it matters, he is making progress. So before we go and take a look at his history, he is now valued at £53 million and earning £150,000 a week while at West Ham. And of course, he is a key player and his media description is a world-class winger. So we move on to his career stats now, guys. And before we get on to the transfer and everything else, we will take a look at how he was doing for Bayern Munich in the first few years of his career. So since the game started, he made 20 appearances in his first season, getting an average rating of 6.94, which isn't amazing, but it's good enough for certainly a young player sort of bedding himself into a new team. He managed to pick up a goal and a few assists, but that was about it. He did make a drastic improvement in the following season, though. At that time, Bayern exercised their option to buy him, paying £18 million to Juventus. And in that season, he made 24 appearances, grabbing 10 goals, 8 assists, and picked up a player of the match. But more importantly, had an average rating of 7.51. The following year, he seemed to fall off the boil somewhat, still getting an average rating of over 7, which is acceptable for most teams. But in the 22 appearances, only managed to grab himself 3 goals and 3 assists. And then the year after that, carried on much the same. Did end up with a 7.19, which is much, much better. But with 25 appearances, 9 goals and 2 assists, at this point, obviously Bayern Munich were beginning to see that it was time to move him on. And that's when West Ham came calling to the tune of £72 million. He's only played 1 year in the Premier League up to now, and in that year, bearing in mind it was his first year, and it should be a year in which he would be bedding in, he managed 29 appearances, 6 goals and 5 assists, managing to get a 7.24 average rating. So we mentioned this in the very early stages of the video there, that of course he would end up highly decorated, and there's no surprise there. In 2017, he managed to win the DFB Pokal and the Bundesliga with Bayern Munich. In 18, he won the Bundesliga again and the Super Cup with Bayern Munich. He then went on to win the Bundesliga, Pokal and the Super Cup in 2019 before once again winning the Bundesliga with Bayern Munich in 2020. And on to the player awards, guys. Other than the obvious team of the weeks, inducted into Bayern Munich's season 11 and all that sort of stuff, the accolade that stands out that is that in 2017, he did manage to pick up the European Golden Boy. So once again, guys, we will go into the future by 5 years to see how Coleman is doing at his prime. At that time, he is going to be around the age of 29, 30 years old. And it should be when he's playing at his absolute best. So here we are, guys, the year 2026, and the thing that is popping to everybody's eye straight away is the fact that Coleman is now playing for Manchester United. Valued at £28.5 million and earning £215,000 a week, he is classed as a first teamer at Manchester United and still has a media description of a world-class winger. But where we'll start, so Coleman's now at the age where you maybe start to see physicals dip somewhat. And his acceleration has dropped. It's dropped by 1 for the first time in his career. However, his natural fitness has grew by 1. He's now got 17 natural fitness and his pace remains the same at 19. And the only other drops in his physicals at this stage of his career is the fact that his balance and jumping reach have both dropped by 1. Now, one of the areas where you expect a player to get better as they get older is, of course, their mentals. And I'll be honest, I think I was hoping for just a little bit more with Coleman. The first thing we see, of course, is the highlighted attributes, and that is flair and work rate are both now at 16. They were 15 previously when he was 25 years old. But other than that, guys, not a right lot. I mean, I would have liked to have thought that his decision-making, his composure, anything like that, the mental strength of a player usually grows with experience, but unfortunately in Coleman's case, that doesn't seem to be the way it is. On his technicals, he has managed to gain 2 in corners but lose 1 in crossing, gain 1 in dribbling but lose 1 in first touch, and he has managed to push his technique up by 1. He does seem to be the type of player that where he gains it in one area, he does seem to be losing it in others. All in all, though, he does look like he's good value for money, and at the moment, at 30 years old, if he's playing for a club like Manchester United, you'd like to think that his career stats have been doing well, so we'll go take a look at them. And there we have it, guys. When we last looked at Coleman, he was 25 years old and he had played his first season for West Ham. It does look like, though, he only went on to play one more season, and a startling season it was, with 35 appearances, 8 goals and 12 assists. He had a 7.46 average rating, which is tremendous for a winger. At that point, Bayern Munich obviously thought, what have we done? And they paid £93 million to take him back to Germany. And he repaid them instantly with 25 appearances, 9 goals and 11 assists, arguably one of his best seasons of his career, getting a 7.47 average rating for his first year back at Bayern. In his next year back at Bayern, he somewhat continued that good form with his 26 appearances, 9 goals, 4 assists, getting a 7.24 average rating. And then once again, upping his game ever so slightly in the following year with a few more appearances at 31, 8 goals, 8 assists, managing to get a 7.25 average rating, before having what you would consider his best year in his second stint at Bayern Munich. He only made 17 appearances, but with 6 goals and 8 assists, it got him a 7.46 average rating, which is obviously what made Manchester United come knocking. Of course, as he was at the twilight end of his career now, Manchester United did manage to get him on what some may call a bit of a bargain at £33.5 million. And in his first season for Manchester United, he managed to get 14 appearances, 1 goal, 4 assists with a 7.2 average rating. All in all, a good 5 years, I would say. To be picking up consistently over 7.2 average ratings in that 5-year period already indicates that Coleman is a wonderkid that really sort of does come to fruition. As we come back to his landmark achievements now, guys, he did win the European International League with France in 2021, before going on to win the EFL Cup with West Ham in 2022. And what may be his crowning achievement of his career, in 2022, along with the DFL Super Cup, he did go on to win the World Cup with France. In 2023, he went on to once again win the Bundesliga. And then in 2023, at the latter end of the year, he did once again manage to win the European International League with France. In 2025, he did go on to win the Bundesliga with Bayern, the Confederations Cup with France, and then the Super Cup once again with Bayern Munich. I did go down and take a look at his personal awards, guys, but other than the usual getting into Team of the Week and all that sort of good stuff, unfortunately Coleman has not won any awards since he won the European Golden Boy. So what we'll do now is, once again, we will go into the future and see where Coleman ended his career once he's retired, and whether he managed to become a manager or a director of football or a coach. So here we are, guys, in the year 2033 with a 36-year-old retired Kingsley Coman. He has become a manager, however, with those stats, I wouldn't be holding your breath anytime soon. However, of course, he's only very young and has a lot of room to improve. As we can see at the top of the screen, he did manage to end with 131 caps and 26 goals for France, which is pretty good for a winger. I think he can give himself a pat on the back there. However, from there, we will go and take a look at his career stats and see how he got on after his first season at Manchester United. So as we can see, guys, he did make the move to Manchester United. It was shown as £33 million when we were there a few years ago. Of course, it must have had add-ons, and it did rise to £41 million. So in his second season at Manchester United, he did manage to make a whopping 32 appearances, picking up 9 goals and 6 assists, and ending with an average rating of 7.19. In the following season, he went to continue that on again with a 7.14. However, as we get into the next season, it's when his form starts to dip, and maybe when, as a player, his stats started to decline. He managed a 6.67 in that season, followed by a 6.77, at which point his career at United evidently came to an end, and Celtic managed to pick him up on a free. He then spent his final 2 years up in Scotland, where it must be said, for an older chap, it looks like he's had somewhat some success. With 28 appearances, 7 goals and 10 assists, and an average rating that is just under 7 at 6.96, it has to be considered successful for an older player in his latter years. But then in his final season, he managed 26 appearances, 5 goals, 9 assists, and in his final season as a player, managed to get an average rating of 7.32. And as we look at his landmark achievement, guys, it looks unfortunately that Coleman's trophy cabinet did not carry on swelling. In the year 2027 is the only time he added a trophy from when we seen him at 30 years old, and that was a European International League with France. And as we take a look at his personal achievements, guys, other than the European Golden Boy, Coleman didn't manage to pick up any other awards. So one thing I do like to do, guys, in these videos before we finish up is we'll go take a look, and as we can see, he made a total of 468 career appearances, grabbing 107 goals and 99 assists. The total spend on transfers of Kingsley Coman was a massive £229 million, which is massive. In my opinion, guys, he is a wonder kid that's certainly worth buying. I alluded to this at the beginning of the video, but of course, if you take your wonder kid early in the game and you develop him the way you want to develop him, in my opinion, a human manager will always do better than the computer. So before we get finished up, guys, I would like to just point you in the direction of fmscout.com, where you can find all the latest football manager news, tactics, graphics, you name it, it's all there. A fantastic site, and if you've not seen it, I definitely recommend you should head over there. Thanks again for watching the video, guys. If you liked it, hit the like button. If you're new around here, hit the subscribe button. I've been Teach FM, and I'll catch you later.